Hey, it's Joseph here. My friend in UK has sent me a SketchUp file for us to do a critique on the model itself. It is not necessarily a design critique, it's more of finding out best practices and some workflows that you might not have been aware of, and also going over a couple of tips and tricks for you guys to see how I work. So hopefully you'll find a couple of things that you did not know before. And whilst watching this video, if you have any questions or something that I kind of left out, please leave a comment down below and I'll be happy to explain or just kind of discuss what is going on there. First of all, my friend's name is Carolina. She lives in UK and her website is ca-homes.co.uk. I'll leave a link in the description for you guys to follow as well. So the file that I will be looking at is this file here. The file name is entirely subjective. However, I don't really like including a date onto a file itself. And because I don't really know this project's name, I'm just gonna name it as my friend's name. And I'm gonna start with a sequence of numbers. So whenever I make a huge update to the model, and then I'll do a save as and put a next number to it. So it's gonna be Carolina02. I am not necessarily going to save as every single time, but this actually gives me sort of a milestone or timestamp for my files. So with that out of the way, I'm just gonna go double click it. As we go through the file itself, we're gonna do a little bit of archaeology as we don't know all the history behind this model. Only the thing that my friend has explained to me is that she had 2 days to work on this file and she was intending to do a Enscape rendering off of this model to give it to her client. So with those things in mind, I'm gonna look into the model itself, and it is apparent that she's still working in 2018 version, which is not a problem, but I would like to stay with the most current version when possible. And I can immediately see that there are quite a few scenes that are set up, especially for Enscape, and also quite a few layer system that is showing here. And the first thing that I would like to do whenever I get handed over a model is to purge. And because I already have the purge all extension, I can go to extensions and purge. But because I do this so often, I already have assigned a shortcut of Shift-0, and that is going to give me purge all options. By the way, if you're wondering about my shortcuts, I do have a video on that, as well as I have a Patreon page. If you sign up, I'll give you all the access and importable file for you to apply the shortcuts for your SketchUp. Maybe later down the road, I will also share importable shortcut file for Revit as well, but for now it is only SketchUp. But I also have developed a package where it includes the description for each and every shortcut for you guys to understand why I'm using that specific shortcut. So that is available. Check it out in my description. So I'm gonna go ahead and okay this and see how many things are purgeable. And notice how I am purging 114 one layer and 75 materials and 3 styles, and I can okay that. Just to give you a comparison, I don't imagine this is gonna be a lot, but if I save as and then just pull up my desktop, the first version was about 113 megabytes. It is now down to 95 megabytes. And as I go through a couple of more cleanup process, this may go down even further. I will look at the layers, and actually I would like to turn on all the layers and see what is going on inside of this specific model. So I'll do zoom extent and see if there's any other geometry outside, and also just to see what has been hidden, I'll turn on hidden geometry, and then I'll go in here and try and see if there's anything that has been hidden away. So I can immediately see there is sort of a shelf that is hanging out here. So let me just kind of get rid of those shelves. Okay, that's fine. Let me just turn off hidden geometry so that my computer is not struggling as much. I'm gonna create one scene so I can just kind of look at everything clear. Especially when I'm working for interior model, I'm gonna set things up at 60-degree wide angle. So I'm gonna hit Z once and 60 DEG, enter. And things are gonna be much wider so that I can swim a lot easier inside of my model. And then I'm just gonna arbitrarily set up model here. I'm gonna create one view by right-clicking on that side and then add. And 2019 feature allows you to rename this easily on the scene tab. So I'm just gonna say JK since it's me. And then maybe it'll be a good time for me to save. And by the way, Carolina also has shared rendered images from this specific file. So let's just go ahead and look at that so we can kind of gain what's going on here. So the first view is looking outside. Looks like that is proxy here and some lights on the ceiling. We can kind of work on that specific one and maybe turning this light on so that we have a bit more light on this side. And the next one here, things are looking a bit too white, but that's sort of the design choice, so I can't really do anything about that. But I think we can gain something by adding a bit more dynamics in the back by turning on a few lights. And same thing here, those spotlights are not looking too good, so we can work on that, as well as maybe looking to turn these lights on. I'm not sure if this one here is specific light that is coming from this chandelier or the ceiling light, so we'll look at that. The other entourages in the front is looking good. Maybe we can work on these silhouette people because that's not necessarily nice, so we may have to work on that for a bit. So this is looking a lot nicer. There's slightly yellow tone to this, which is okay considering it's residential interior space. A bit artificial, if I may, but I'm gonna leave most of the things white because that's more of a design choice. We're here to do sort of the model critique more so than the design choices. So I'll stay away from those and let's just dive in. So from here, I'm gonna immediately turn on Enscape. And by the way, if she had used the most recent version of Enscape and saved those presets into the file, and I can kind of access those values as well. So I'm gonna check that out first. So if I go into here, there's gonna be visual settings as well as general settings. That has been changed in the most recent version. So I'm gonna click on visual settings. And if there was anything in this specific file, I can load preset, load from project, and there isn't anything other than this default settings. So I'm gonna go ahead and just reset everything to default so I can work from the same settings as what you guys would work on. Something that I really like the look of is having a bit of outline, so I'll just increase that to 20%. And also whenever I capture, I wanna make sure I get it as a JPEG and just automatic naming so I don't have to think of a view name every single time, and then I just save that into my desktop always. So that's pretty much what I do, except that I change things to Ultra HD and then I'll work up my way from those values. So I'm just gonna save that as a preset into this project. I'm gonna name it as JK again. Okay, so next time if I need to work on this rendering, I can go ahead and load preset from a project, and I'm gonna have this specific preset and load that afterwards. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that again. And then let's look at Enscape itself. So with that, I'm noticing immediately things are looking dark from outside. It is because of all the contrast. So if I just kind of go in a little bit. So notice those lights in the ceiling that we wanted to work on. So let me just set this up so that I can see the rendering on the left side and SketchUp onto the right. Let me just kind of close that up for now. Normally I would put this onto my second screen. However, you need to kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm gonna leave it as a split screen. So let me just kind of look at that scene here. So I can immediately see there's something going on that is an emissive material. I just color sampled it by holding down Alt key on the paint bucket tool. And then that is causing this sort of weird light effect. Let me double click that and then move that down a bit. So that is causing that sort of light bleeding effect. I don't think this is a right workflow, so I'm just gonna get rid of that one. This is looking like a V-Ray light. Yep, so V-Ray spotlight, we don't need that anymore. And then it is looking sort of out of alignment in terms of the can line going on here. So what I will do is I like the trim that has been worked here. So I'm gonna maybe delete this and even that one too. And then perhaps work off from this one. So I'm gonna select the ring here. I have a shortcut for selecting the curve by TomTom. It's an extension. And then I hit V and then select that, copy that, come out of there, paste in place. Then let me see if I can create face by doing so. Yep. So with that, and in a distance, you can't really tell the difference. So I'm just gonna push pull that, make that into a group. And then here I'm going to apply emissive value, and that can be worked in different ways. So I'm just gonna create a new material, and then this is what I like to do. And I do 0, 0 dots so that all the change value material stays on the top of the list. So this is going to be light emissive 01. So that's going to be the first one, and then apply the materiality. And notice how that is coming out a bit more natural looking, and perhaps we need a bit more light coming from there, actually shedding some light onto the scene. So we're gonna go to Enscape objects, and then I can do the spotlight. If I just highlight over here, normally if that is a curve, a center line should show up, but in this case it isn't. So I'll just kind of arbitrarily draw a line here. And if I go here, I can see that this is not being applied as a component. So I'll just cut that and then go into this component specifically and paste in place. Control Shift V, which is a custom shortcut that I have applied. Now all the components that are downlights are looking exactly the same. So I'm gonna come out of that. If I click on page down, I'll go to next scene, and then if I go page up, I come back to this scene. And I actually don't really like those animation effects, so I'm gonna go to model info, animation, and just turn that enable scene transition so that I don't have any delays between scenes as I do page up and down. And because I want to put this cone into a separate layer, I'm gonna go to extensions, layer, export and import by TIG. I'm gonna import my layers list from the template. I can also share this as a template and also the layer import export file that you just saw into my Patreon page. Any of you who's interested in that, let me know. So we'll just kind of work together so that is available for you as well. So all the layers have come in. I'm gonna go into this light so I can specifically select this cone only and then just put in as the lights, and then I'm gonna save that. And then in the scene, if I highlight this, notice how I can increase the intensity. I'll just kind of bring it up and see if it has any effect into the scene. Yes, it does. By double clicking it, it doesn't really go back. So I can just set down a specific value, which is 1000 by default. So that is fine. I can close that one out so that the ceiling light is there. So let me just work on these 3 lights because I want to add some light in there as well. In here, I'm gonna go down into the specific lights. There's something weird going on as I can see multiple cones into this light. I'm not sure what is going on. And inside, I want to have emissive material, so the bottom of it actually appears lighting up. There, and then apply the same light material. Notice how that just turns on so that it is more natural looking. And then let's apply another type of spotlight in there. And then they'll shed light onto the surface. Let's just increase the intensity and see if it is in fact putting light in the scene. Yes, it is. So I'm gonna go back and put that right back into 1000 CD so that all the lights are same intensity. Okay, so everything is looking much better in terms of light in this scene. And the cabinetry is sort of the white matte finish. So the marble is not really looking glossy as it normally does. So marble 01, and then it is not receiving any reflection whatsoever. And I'm going to the Enscape materials, and I'm gonna increase this roughness down to maybe here. So you'll see that it becomes more reflective. I don't know if that is, maybe we increase the reflection value a little bit more. So changing roughness changes the reflection of the material. Okay, so let's work on the cabinetry surface as well. Sample that there. High gloss kitchen, so it is supposed to be shiny, but the roughness is 90. So if I just take it down high gloss. So high gloss is supposed to be high gloss, so I'll just make it as reflective as possible. So that is looking much better. All right, I'm gonna save that. And then I'm gonna get rid of this shiny part because it wasn't really doing anything there. And let me just sample this one too. So induction is normally glossy, and that one is not looking glossy. So I can actually bring that down as well so that it is somewhat more glossy or reflective surface, like so. All right, the scene is looking much better with those settings. This is looking almost not finished wood. So we'll just give a little bit of sheen to the wood itself. So porcelain wood, maybe that is supposed to be a little bit glossier than that, but roughness was dialed in as 100. So that is picking up nice gloss there. That is good. In this case, I don't know if we should have this person rotating off of her knees. So we can actually change that. So we'll work on that for a bit. So let's fix the rotation of that person there. So if we go here, notice how she is rotating off of her knee. It is because the origin is here. So we can actually go and then maybe even rotate off of there. So I can do that. I normally like just getting rid of all the edges, so I can do merge faces and then merge all the stray edges. I can also get rid of these edges. Alright, so that is a cleaned up version, and I can just basically position her from the origin onto this chair. So normally she is rotating off of her chair. I do like these face me components, but especially the ones that are sitting down, they're kind of tricky. So you may have to move them a bit depending on the scene, but this is what I would usually like to do whenever they're sitting on a chair, so that the origin point is dictating how they're sitting onto the table. So that's better. So this one is face meing as well, so rotation is completely off. So let me just select all and bring her bottom onto the origin. Maybe we can also flip as well. So in most of the views that this person is looking fine. Maybe the scale is off too. So let me just increase scale a little bit. Not necessarily a good component, but maybe we'll go down the road of changing the people as the Enscape entourages. So let's look at these components, because when I turn on the hidden geometry, I have noticed they are quite complex, and I also have noticed that this edge is turned on whilst the others are not. So that is sort of red flag for me to see if there's anything that we can do to make this better. So if I double click on it, I can see all the chairs are clumped up together, which is fine. And if I go into here, you can see the top is separate from the rest of the chair, and then this is a one chair, and puzzling because this is a group. I think there are a few things that we can do to make this even better. So first of all, let's focus on this one in the corner and make them into a good component I can just kind of repeat across. So right click, make it into a component. I don't really have to give a meaningful definition, but in this case I'll just say chair 01. So that is now a component, whilst the rest is not really a component. Notice how this is a group of 3 chairs, so I'm going to explode that so that they are singular. If I select all, I am seeing everything is somewhat consistent, whereas this one is not. So I'm actually going to delete this one and then perhaps even have this one arrayed here. And all of these changes are actually being shown into this Enscape side. So if I actually go ahead and delete this one, inside of here is going to delete as well. So if I just array that to the left, notice how that is changing as well. So if I select all, I can actually make all of them with the component replacer into this specific component. It is not really going to be visible as the others aren't really looking different. Let me just kind of demonstrate this so you can kind of easily see what is going on. So if I go here and hide the legs, and I'm going to select all again, select this chair 01 instead of this group here, and all of them is going to be that specific component without the legs. So if I go back in there and then unhide the legs, notice how everything is looking like a component behavior. So I'm gonna look at a couple of rendered images. View 1 is looking like this. Let me try and find that specific one. So here, maybe position 1, it is looking like that as well. So as you can see there. So let me minimize that and try and render that scene here. So I'm gonna go to favorite view again and just make it into favorite view. So in here, I can just kind of go to the right and then I can just flip between as well. Obviously I have slightly wider angle. I think that is preferred to just kind of show you more space. If I really want to use a SketchUp setting, I can just click on synchronize views. Then notice how that is a lot tighter. I don't really prefer that, so I'm gonna go back to here and try and show a little bit more, then over to this side so I can kind of show what is going on in the kitchen. So I am liking that scene a whole lot better, so I'm gonna go back into SketchUp, create view, and then that's gonna be Enscape view 8. That's fine, but I'm gonna say JK02 and perhaps make my other one JK model because it's a modeling view, and then just change this back to 01. So okay, and then make that into my favorite view. Actually scratch that one out and then 01. It's a bit harsh light outside and then too subtle of a lighting that's going on inside of interior. So let's just change that a little bit. And then in atmosphere, I can change the sun brightness slightly lower and then lower the shadow sharpness so they are not as sharp. I'm not particularly liking that specific light that is being created on the side. Maybe I need to move those lights a little bit. Alright, so I'm gonna save this as a third file and try to work with this light here by moving it slightly inward. And I would like a bit more vignette in the scene. I can increase the vignette a little more. And here you can see the scene outside is looking too sharp. So your focus is driven out to the garden instead of being focused onto this beautiful island unit. So I'm gonna go back, perhaps go to rendering, and then I'm gonna increase the depth of field. You can kind of see things going out of focus back here, and then things are focusing on here. However, that is out focusing the back of the island too much, so I'm gonna dial back out. So here you can see that everything's focused here and then back is somewhat blurred out. And maybe we can have a little bit of grass. I'm kind of noticing that now. So go to SketchUp and then in here I can make that into grass. So just sample that and then it is grass artificial. So that is somehow not grass. So let me make sure to go to material and then make that into not a foliage but more of grass. There you go. So that is looking much like actual grass. So I'm gonna go back by page up and up. So there you go. I think that person is sort of an eyesore. So let me go here and try and replace with the asset library of Enscape. So I can click on people and then try to find someone who looks like that. Is this person on the phone? Maybe. So and then while at it, let's just replace her as well. Alright, that's better. Let's replace this person. Page up and down and up. I want to have some light in there, so I can move the light a little bit and then maybe have some light coming off. Okay, that is looking good. I'm gonna update that by going here and then that's gonna be JK02. I'm actually going to get rid of the first one, so delete that. Okay, and then make that into my favorite view again. I can render that away, so I can click on this button here, render image, and then it is going to render away. I'm actually going to save that preset. So to save the preset JK01. Okay, and then save that file as well. So the first scene has rendered from here to there. So let's look at the next one, which is kind of looking inside from outside. So let's go back in Yep, this must have been it. So Enscape 3, if I go synchronize the view once, and then so if I park this one here and go to Enscape on this side, notice how this is actually a night scene. So this is night, we want to make it during the daytime. Just need to go in a little bit. So let's look at the original image here. And I want to be able to see inside as well. So what I'm going to do is get rid of that out focusing effect with the depth of field. Maybe we need to kill the light here a little bit and then change with the shadow a little bit. So I think we want to pick up some light. That is looking way too strong. So let's get rid of intensity there. So that is 4,000. Let's reduce it right back down to sort of the normal amount. And this cone here as well. I think it would be nicer if it were to much lesser so that we don't see too much of light onto the ceiling. We can reduce the sunlight a bit further. So sun brightness, lower it even further. All right. Actually, I'm liking that much better. And then rename this one as JK01 since it was the first scene, and then this is gonna be JK02. And then go back here, confirmed view is good, and then just render away. And then the next view, one from where the person was sitting. All right, that is looking much darker since we have turned off the sunlight. Let's just push that back up. Some brightness at 80%. All right, that is still looking dark. So we need to bring up some values. So it's too late at night. So let's just bring that up to daytime. Okay, that's better. This person is too much distracting. So I'm gonna just go ahead and hide that person, create a different view, JK03. I don't really like this cup as that is not looking realistic. Those cups are actually looking fine. What about this one here? Okay, that is looking much better. And then the last but not least, this one here from corner looking out. So I believe that will be one of these. Nope, it's not. Oh, here it is. About 60 degrees again. And that is looking like a night again. So I'm gonna go back in there to set up a noon-ish and then set up as another scene, JK04. All right, so that is what it's looking like. Let's compare. And we can just kind of out focus that area too. So, and then do depth of field because I want that area to be somewhat blurred out. That's looking good, so let's render away. Okay, so this is what it rendered as. I am seeing a little bit of seam here. Let's go about fixing that. So if I go here, I can see that seam as well. So if I sample that, notice how that comes in here. I have the external editor set up as Photoshop. If you don't have that, you can go to Preferences and then Applications to Photoshop EXE. So if you have done that, your Photoshop should load immediately. To have this loaded, and I can see that seam right here. So I can go here and select all transform, and then if I just increase the overall size of the image. The reason I do this instead of crop is because so I can maintain overall image size. So I do that, save that, and then if I go back to SketchUp, notice how that has been filled in. I'm gonna go back to that scene, make sure it's synchronized, and then render that away again. Once that is rendered, you can see there's no seam there. So we have looked at these 4 scenes. The first one was this one, second, and the third, and the 4th. So these 4 scenes that we have worked on, I'm gonna share with Carolina so that she can also gain some of the tips and tricks that I have carried on as well. And hopefully you guys have picked up a few things too. So the workflows and the way that I have carried out a couple of tasks inside of here. If there's something that I have missed out, or if you prefer different ways, please leave a comment down below and I would love to talk about it. By the way, if you guys have any other model that you like like to share as well for me to kind of do this same critique, please send it my way. You can kind of contact me via email or any of the social media. I would love to hear from you. Obviously, it's got to be something that you're okay sharing with the public. So please reach out if you have some models that you would like to share with us for me to kind of go over. So if you have picked up a few things, please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to continue watching this type of videos. And thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll see you next time. Bye.